Hi, how are we? Excellent. I like to hear it. First thing, you're my favorite person. Good. Welcome. Today is day 4 of VIFF Industry. We've had an amazing lineup the last few days. We had new initiatives this year. We had a VIFF Exchange, which was our first marketplace on the digital side. And yesterday we had VR Rises. It was absolutely fantastic. We trended 3 times across Canada. I like to work a little bit on the social side as well and keep things really interactive. So I'm going to really encourage you to please tweet out throughout the sessions today. Our hashtag is VIFF Industry, and VIFF if you choose that one as well. We would really like to keep the dialogue going and kind of capitalize on the success we had yesterday. And I think it's important because not everybody can be here, so it's great to share the conversation throughout all of the interwebs. We have an amazing lineup of speakers today. I'm really excited about this panel that's coming up. And I just wanted to do a big thank you to IATSE for being our sponsor this morning. And yeah, IATSE. And without any further holding up or impeding you, I'm excited to introduce Mr. Tim Goodman of The Hollywood Reporter.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Our first panel today is Meet the Gatekeepers, and it'll all be about how you get a show on the air and what these guys go through to put one on the air, and not what I do to it once it's on the air. So that's always good. So we're gonna right. We're not gonna talk about that part. We might, right? So we're gonna start at the end and introduce everybody, and when we get to Mackenzie in the middle, there's a clip for Mackenzie, and we'll boot that up and we'll show you that. But on the end, we have Natalie Rodriguez, who is the director of original programming for Rogers. Next to her, we have Kate Lambert, who's VP of Series Development at FX Networks. In the middle, we have Mackenzie Lush, who's director of creative affairs for Entertainment One Television. And to my left is Bill McGoldrick, executive vice president of content at Sci-Fi, and my new good friend. So, do we have Mackenzie's clip that we can show? It's going to be spectacular.
It's all me.
Yeah.
I'm going to act out my entire slate.
Here you go. What is your business in Sweden? You can just put down love.
I just put down unemployed.
At Entertainment One Television, there's a new attitude.
Thank you!
We bring you more.
I have seen things that you cannot imagine.
More high-quality entertainment.
It's our turn.
History always sides with the winner. Starting with more from high-profile partners.
They found a body in the field.
Definitely a murder.
We're gonna find who did this.
This place is poison.
This is where I belong. I want to build a computer that nobody else has the balls to build.
They have spies everywhere. Fight for what you believe in.
People are the best defense against walkers.
There's a range war coming. And your railroad is about to drive right through it.
I need more than talent. I need stars.
We are in the middle of the Yukon. We run out of money, we are dead.
I'm killing Mike.
It's funny how your mind jumps right to killing.
What's the matter? Your parents are right in the other room.
It's super quiet.
More renewals.
It's days like today that just make me realize how much my job means to me.
Let me buy you a drink.
Right now, it's noontime.
Oh, it's nighttime in Sweden.
The troubles are still here.
How much more can people take?
What is happening to you right now is called the first change.
That's my life from now on. I'm talking to spirits, ghosts, whatever you are.
I am not losing another operative.
Is there a target on my back or not?
More genres.
More like best friends than mother and daughter. Boobs, sorry.
We were playing with the dog.
Number 9, strong, athletic.
You're gonna let me drive this? And with more on the horizon, the future is more exciting than ever.
You gotta let go of that Africa thing. This your home now, and we's all you got.
You don't know a thing about me.
With over 2,800 hours of compelling content and 500 broadcast partners in more than 150 countries. Entertainment One Television. Are you ready for more?
These are exciting times.
Okay. Wow. Exciting times indeed. In fact, I want to preface the start of this panel and let these guys take it from there. And that we're sort of living in amazing times in television right now, and also very, very challenging times in that we are in sort of a platinum age of television right now, where there's almost 400 scripted series only in prime time. This is in the U.S., only in prime time and from 8 to 11, and that's the networks and cable and the streaming service. That's a lot of content. That's a lot of scripted stuff. Not even counting unscripted. So 400 scripted shows is really hard. So I want to ask these guys, as the gatekeepers, specifically in that environment, like what are you looking for specifically, and what kinds of shows are you looking for, and how difficult is it for shows to sort of stand out and thrive there? I guess I'll start with you, Natalie.
Thank you, Tim. At Rogers, we have. We're primarily focused on commissioning for City, which is a conventional broadcaster. And we're conscious that we're not like our competitors and that we have a different audience, we skew younger, and we want to stand out. And so what we look for is obviously something that is different than what the other guys are doing. So we're not really looking for procedural dramas and can take a few more bold risks and chances on content that is more cable-like. And we know that there's that audience there, that they're consuming this content, premium cable and on all sorts of platforms. They want more of a narrative. They want more character-driven drama. They want to invest in characters. And so we figured, let's stay away from the procedurals. Our competitors do that really well. And let's focus more on something that's going to bring us in every week. And so what we're looking for is more event television drama, more self-contained series that have a very specific beginning, middle, and end with like a 6 or a 10 part, the smaller batch, bake it up for the audience. If they get hooked on it, then we can look at, do we do another second season with a different character that really attracted people on social media, or we also look at whether or not we're more open to different narrative models. So we have FX in Canada, and we know that people are loving that content. It's some of the strongest content out there, and they're really responding to series like Fargo and Strain. And Fargo's more of an anthology approach of resetting the characters in a different time and place. We see that's working, and people are responding to that. So we're very supportive of hearing those types of pitches. That's primarily for City. Looking ahead, we'd love to do more for FX Canada. And so it's looking for those original dramas that are going to fit that brand for us. And I know when creators come in and they know that we have FX, they're very excited about what can we do for FX. Just you can take more risks, more challenges, and that's what we need to stand out from the clutter and so much content that's out there.
Yeah, and Kate, on your end, for FX, I mean, that's such a nice pitch there for FX. So what do you guys,
What she said.
Yeah, like what she said. So what are you, how do you stand out? Obviously, it was your boss is the one who said talked about sort of the idea of peak TV, and how is FX manipulating
I think you
to
just continue to look for auteur voices. I think that we've always done that. I think you look for filmmakers, you look for people who are just passionately have a story they want to tell. You look for characters and tones and stories that feel original. I think then, therefore, the bar becomes higher for what is original. We're not a channel that's looking for companion pieces, I would say, which is traditionally, you're launching a show at 9 o'clock, and then you're going to launch a show after it that audience might like. We look at it more as we're programming TV 10 o'clock. You need to love this one show. You might not love every show. You might like a few of our shows, but you need to absolutely passionately show up for that show. So, and I think that bars become higher, right? There's great dramas, there's great comedies, and I think the exciting thing is you're seeing walls break down. Could it be from international filmmakers? I think it, is it Les Revenants? Is it just great? Is the filmmaking great? And I think narrative structure has been really fun the past few years. I think it started a few years ago with, frankly, I think I started seeing it with Battlestar or even Friday Night Lights, where you could jump cut seasons and then Ryan Murphy walks in with American Horror Story, and we knew from the outset that the idea of jump cutting a season, we didn't market to that the first season, but that was always his intent, and that was really exciting. Cut to, we're just about to launch American Crime Story, which is another one of Ryan Murphy's kind of fun things, and every season, again, will be a different story with a different creator, a different filmmaker, a different writer. So unlike Fargo and True Detective, of which Nick Pizzolatto and Noah Hawley are the kind of constants, this will be a franchise that tonally will have a different story, possibly different cast of characters. I think just the idea of what a drama series and then a comedy series between a half hour and 1 hour, between Orange is the New Black to, It's Always Sunny to Louie, there's just a great range of exciting programming. We were just talking, she was mentioning a show that they're launching. It's just, it's exciting. It's exciting to think that the boxes aren't so defined. And I think that's what we look for, is just how to push that forward in new, fun ways.
Just to that, we were talking about how we launched, last night we had the honor of screening one of our new TV series for our multi-cultural ethnic channel, Omni, and it's the first Chinese English drama in Canada, and it's a half-hour drama. It's a serialized, character-driven crime drama about a family and their secrets, and it's a half hour. And we just thought, we're struggling to compete for attention out there, and a half hour is just quick, digestible. It's, if we want to put it on different platforms, from online to YouTube or mobile, it just lends itself to, coming in for a juicy story and then not having that big hour chunk on primetime television. And it was amazing, the response we got, because it was like the characters are going in and out of different languages, and yet it had a very, it's very cross-cultural. It doesn't matter if you're Chinese or not, you can still enjoy it. So anyway, we're trying all different things.
And Mackenzie, when you're looking for product out there,
everything.
Yeah, right. And it's like, and this is probably what everybody here wants to hear. So
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
I mean, they definitely have a different MO than myself. They have a brand. They know exactly what they want, or they're often surprised, I'm sure, but they know exactly what they're working towards. Obviously, as a studio, we're trying to service many buyers, many partners, not just in Canada, where my office is located. Of course, we have offices around the world, but globally, we always have to think globally, which makes it such an exciting time for Canadian writers and producers, because it is not just this small little niche we have to think about anymore. So I really run the gamut from network comedy to network procedurals to character-driven cable pieces. And for me, it's just a new point of view, a new voice, a new lens, which the character is driving the story as opposed to reacting to it. I think you have to come out swinging now. It's so noisy out there. So even if it is a procedural, come out like Shonda Rhimes does and blow people's minds with the most exciting, inciting incident or best character introduction. If it's a serialized drama, know where you're going. It's not just enough to say and then the world blows up and then there's only 10 people left. Well, where are we going from there? So you need to know the trajectory of your characters, and it needs to be something that continues to surprise, and that can be in comedy, that can be in drama, network, cable. So I know it sounds pretty general when I say everything, but I really have to look at all the buyers and all the partners and try and see where your idea lines up, and if there are multiple homes with a broad audience appeal. And that doesn't mean diluting the story, so it just tries to capture everyone's attention and in the end doesn't capture anyone's. I mean, you need to know that there are multiple homes for it. It's too hard for myself even, to get invested in a project that really has one place to sell and then we're done. That's heartbreaking. I love development. I love getting on board people's ideas and helping them foster a season or an arc. So really know what's out there, what the brand of a network is, what they're looking for, and try to see a way that you can, match that, and then maybe hopefully push it just a little bit beyond an introduce something new.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's insane. It's insanely competitive right now. To stand out is super hard. And Bill, you're in a much more with Sci-Fi. You're in a more niche-oriented business. So from that perspective, especially because the audience for that is they're very picky in a lot of ways. So what is Sci-Fi's modus operandi when they're looking for new material?
Well, it's a lot of what these guys said. I mean, the auteur voice, the show creator that is coming at these things, even sci-fi concepts in a way you haven't seen before, in a way that might be similar to independent film or foreign film or throwback to things that have gone out of style. We are looking for those concepts that'll cut through just like anyone else. And I'll say, even though it's niche, all of our competitors seem to be in the genre business now. So it never, and I'll say, over the last 2 years, almost 2 years since I've been at Sci-Fi, there's never been a show I really wanted that 3 other people didn't want too, whether it was FX or AMC or HBO or somebody. It feels like or Netflix, we're always up against someone. So it has gotten so competitive out there from a development standpoint that I think the smart play is, is a lot what Kate said, is just, you've got to really believe in the creator and the showrunner, and the day of companion pieces and the day of, ooh, this kind of fits with our brand is only part of the way there. And I think that's the biggest challenge. More specifically right now for us though, we do believe Battlestar Galactica was a bit ahead of its time in its storytelling style, and had there been these devices, catch-up devices, it may have been a Breaking Bad for genre, and then the network would have gone in that direction, and I probably wouldn't have been there. I might still be at USA Network, but I think that's what we're looking to get back to more specifically, is to have our shows spoken about in the same way those premium cable shows are. That's the thinking behind some of our upcoming stuff, like The Expanse, and what we've done to even existing shows. I think Dominion Season 1 to Dominion Season 2, there's quite a difference, and I'm bringing that up because Tim savaged our pilot of Dominion in a way that I've never seen a show savage that I've worked on. And I was new to Sci-Fi, and I was reading the review, and I was like, oh my God. These people are like, they are awful to this network. So we're hoping to get a good review out of Tim. That will be
some of the American Horror Story for Season 1 reviews.
Oh, really? So it's just him. It's just Tim then.
I don't know. No, not specifically him. I just meant in
okay.
about a show.
Yeah, because I don't know if he was having a bad day or what was going on, but it'll be a success when we get a good review from Tim. So keep an eye out.
So this went totally sideways for me. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Well, it's interesting, too, when you guys talk about sort of just trusting in somebody who can really deliver a show, but also seeking an auteur. So how do you balance opening up platforms for new storytellers, but then wanting somebody, like Ryan or whoever, or Kurt Sutter, who can take a show and that not only if you sign them, will they maybe, master a great new hit for you, but even if it's only moderately successful, their next one might be it. How do anybody can take that?
I guess I would point to Joe Weisberg in The Americans, right? He's a guy who had done a novel, had written a script for us in development before The Americans. We loved his writing, felt that was not the right idea. He had this idea for The Americans behind it. We were like, let's do that. Wrote an amazing script again, and that was the right idea to program. And we got behind him. He was willing to learn. He was a writer that didn't just say, no, it's my way, the highway, and I walk off the set and I'm gonna, he was like, I don't know anything about putting a pilot together, casting. I'm like, Joe, just watch tape. Like, it's having an opinion, And he's continually done that, and we've built a team around him with Joel Fields and a writing room and, the world's nicest writing room, and I do say that, and the nicest casting crew. And he's just grown and grown and grown. But the intent of what he always wanted to do was there day one in the pitch. He walked in the door saying, I've always been, I don't know how many people are caught up or not. If you're not, go watch it. But he said, I want to do a show. It's about the moment that a spy has to tell their kid and what that does to a family. That was the thing at the nut core of what he wanted to do as a drama. That is there through and through and through. So I think that's kind of an easy best case.
Yeah, I think we call it internally the North Star of a show. So for him, it was the parent telling the kid he was a spy, and it helps because when you get into episode 17 and you're not liking it and you don't know why, you're usually benefiting by going back to whatever that little piece was. Like, let's get back to the original intent. And sometimes you can, sometimes you're wrong, but sometimes you can feel it in that very first pitch. And it could be as sort of important a show as Battlestar Galactica. I've heard all the stories about Ron Moore and David Icke coming in and pitching that. When I was at USA, a guy named Steve Franks came in on a show like Psych, which no one would hold up as important, but it was clear that Steve knew exactly what he wanted to do with that show. Really, truly, in the first 5 minutes of the pitch. And those are I mean, it doesn't happen often, but those are the moments where you're like, okay, no matter if it's what we're looking for, if it fits the brand, any of that, where does it fit on the schedule, you just say, we're taking a chance on that one. And that's kind of all you can do in this crowded marketplace, I think.
Yeah, You're the Worst, as Stephen Falk came in, pitched that exact pilot story, dropped in a script. Probably 3 months later, we were shooting. Like, same thing with Adam Reed, who does Archer. So it's not always that case. A lot of times I think you are judged as a writer from your first to your second draft, especially. It's how you want to see how a writer learns and listens but holds on to his intent. So I think that's important.
We take a lot of pitches, and even though we may not have we don't commission a lot, we don't want to miss out on a pitch because you never know when they're going to come in and say, something that's going to blow your mind, and or even just give you that spark of, oh, there's something really interesting here. So even though we may, people may think, City is this or Rogers needs that, just come and let us hear what you're doing, because you can usually tell in the pitch whether or not it's going to work, but then we also rely on the development process. And during that development process where we're taking chances on those auteur voices who may not have as much experience, it is about surrounding them with people and partners that can support them. We're there to foster that as well, and that development process is really important for us because it also gives us that first step of, is this going to be a good partnership? Is this person going to be responsive to what we need? And are they listening, but are they also holding on to that core spark of their creativity and their original voice that got them in the door or got them to that development stage in the first place? Because when people are too quick to say, oh, but we can change that, like, it's great to hear that you're willing and open to change stuff, which is so important because it's part of the partnership. But when you're willing to change too much and you don't have that strong core idea and voice, then we're like, this may not work.
Yeah, I'll just add, sort of at the end of my run at USA, we had been doing these sort of escapist, sunny procedurals for a long time. Blue sky.
With sunglasses.
And I can tell you, I can't tell you the amount of times I had to sit in pitches for surfing detectives. I mean, no matter what we said, no matter how many times we said we didn't want it, and it was just clear that they were writing based on what they thought we wanted, pitching based on what they thought we wanted, rather than what they wanted to do. It was, and they're kind of listening and looking up to see if we're nodding or going to stand up in applause as if we'd never heard the surfing detective idea before. But I think that's what you want to avoid when you're pitching anybody, is the sense that it's trying to check every box for what you're looking for rather than something you're passionate about, because we pick up on that passion in the room.
Yeah. Mackenzie, are you guys, when you're out there looking for stuff, you're open to newer people who haven't done it before? And
oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a nice problem to have, but our Canadian writers, our senior top writers, they're doing really well, and they're, of course, heading to the U.S., whether it's Semichellis or Esther Spalding or Tassie Cameron. I mean, these are people whose careers were launched through Canada and now have found huge success in the U.S., and we applaud it, but it also means there's sort of that level of writer, not available to us who are generating concepts. I mean, in Canada, we don't have the same development season as the U.S., where, it's fairly, it's based on a calendar year. You pick up, you order, you make your pilots, and done. Development in Canada, in case anyone's not aware, can go on for years. And, often that's a great thing because you uncover things you never thought, and the concept gets refined and sharpened, and it becomes a better thing because of it. But it also means that it's a long process, and so a lot of senior writers kind of are like, well, I'm not going to really want to take that time. But what they are willing to lend themselves out to is coming on board and consulting with young writers. I mean, young writers are the ones who are sort of have the time to generate concept after concept after concept, and thank God. And, you know, what we do is try to not force a marriage, because that's not beneficial to anyone, but to try and bring in someone from the ground up who can be that, you know, that person they go to, who can consult with them, who can give them, you know, their expertise and their experience beyond ourselves, you know, as a studio. So we try to do it at inception, as opposed to we have a green light. Now here's the showrunner who's going to come in and steal your baby, or that's how you may feel. But, you know, we try to do it and surround them with the team, whether it's Rookie Blue. We had obviously with Tassie Cameron and David Wellington and Alana Frank. And then with Saving Hope, we had Morwen Bremner and David Wellington and Alana Frank. Like, we had to, anyone who says they want to showrun on their own has never been a showrunner, I would think. Like, at least from a junior level, when people say, it's like, I know I'm not going to run in my first season. You're like, no, you don't want to. It's a terrifying, you know, gigantic process, and it's not just simply being the voice leading a writer's room. You have to do everything. It's a million skill sets. So we try to build that from the core, so nobody feels like they're tossed to the side when the green light finally, hopefully, does come down.
Yeah, and as you know, the title of it, as the Gatekeepers, I'm interested in also. I mean, now I'm kind of interested in surfing detectives, actually.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in what you're getting pitched too much of, and also if either of you or any of you have a notion of something that's not out there now. You know, it could be maybe a tired genre or an idea that's like primed for a comeback.
I'll take this one. It's kind of obvious, I think, for our brand. I think we get pitched a lot of, they're like, FX, you're provocative, and it's porn, and it's Vegas, and it's, and like, that is not edgy, that is not provocative, that is not pushing the boundaries. We're like, no at the door on any of those kinds of ideas. I think the thing we're looking for are probably things you wouldn't, are traditionally within the brand of an FX storyteller, which is more aggressive and auteur-driven, but also, I'm looking at him. We've been looking for a sci-fi show. I think everyone in cable is.
Yeah, you just bid on one last week that I want really bad. So maybe we could settle that right here.
I think that there's a great opportunity as a sci-fi fan to be doing something fun within our brand in that genre that perhaps hopefully hasn't been done. You know, I think the other thing that we're a very male network. There's a lot of women that work at my network that enjoy my network. And I think there's a lot of women out there craving a strong female protagonist, and that is actually something we are actively looking for. I think she is someone who is complicated and flawed, and hopefully not just a PTSD rape victim.
White wine drinking.
Yeah, I'm not saying, I just, yeah. Just, I want someone complicated and unapologetic who is a real woman, and I feel like she needs to be a lead female character. We have a lot of them on our network, but I know what that show is that men want to watch as well, is going to be something we're really looking for. And that's not something I think people would, you know, they walk in the door and wouldn't pitch it. They call us and like, well, it's a female lead. I'm not sure if you want to hear it. And like, yes, we actually do, you know.
You know, I think we get pitched too much of any show that they're basing on, whether it's an alien show or a vampire show, and that's the basis of the pitch. And there's sort of nothing beneath it. Because, you know, look, there are only, you know, a finite number of ways to write sci-fi, right? Either post-apocalyptic or, you know, vampire or fantasy or whatever. And what we're looking for is sort of, yeah, we get that, but we sort of want something deeper. Beyond that. I would personally love to figure out a way to get maybe some quieter sci-fi, the Twilight Zone-esque sci-fi in this next round of development, because I think we've got some stuff coming that's sort of the big, shiny, high-cost visual effects type shows. So, but I was personally a fan growing up. I was more of a Twilight Zone kid than anything else. So something we tried hard to get Black Mirror, and we're still very sad that we didn't. That ended up going to Netflix, which I think was a mistake for them, honestly. No, I'm serious, and let me tell you why.
And
I think
everybody bid on that. HBO, everyone bid on that.
I'm just going to work this out with you guys because I'm still very sad we didn't get this. I think that had I had the ability to watch the Ricky Gervais Office and the Steve Carell Office by making one click, which is, you know, they were trying to bring the American Black Mirror, I don't know that I would ever watched the Steve Carell Office. So I actually do think that was sort of a mistake on their part to take it to Netflix, because I think you're going to be comparing it to 6 really great episodes. So, but that show, I bring that up because I'm still mad about it. But I think that show and the themes that it was that it was sort of unearthing would be perfect for our network right now.
And everybody comes in pitching that. I don't even know. It's funny because you talk to people from the UK pond, and that aired forever ago to them, and they're like, I don't know, every drama writer and comedy writer comes in pitching Black Mirror like as a series.
Because everybody gets obsessed with it. And you know what I think happened? I think they watched the first episode, which was the pig episode, and then everybody's like, well, no. But then you have to watch all 6 of them to really get how genius that guy is.
We get pitched a lot of sci-fi, and because we're not exclusively looking for genre, and we prefer more of a genre mashup. The sci-fi, it's very interesting. We're very picky about it, and but we just keep getting a lot of sci-fi, and it's usually sci-fi that's like there's a lot of it out there, and we always say if it takes place in space or on a spaceship, and it's not grounded on Earth in real-world stakes and doesn't feel like a world we can all live in and that the viewer can see themselves in, and then it's a harder sell for us on conventional television, because at the end of the day, as much as we want to stand out as the conventional in Canada, we still are a conventional channel. So it's a tricky proposition. We get a lot of comedy because we have a lot of US comedy, and we have a lot of different comedy, and we were the first ones to do a Canadian multicam, and we also had a single cam, and so we get a lot of comedy, and I think, so because it seems like we're the destination for comedy, we get a lot of comedy, and what we're doing in the comedy space on the original front is actually a departure from the single cam or the multicam, and we're doing a bit of a hybrid in that it's a sketch comedy show, but with recurring characters who live in a neighborhood called Sunnyside, and it's just nuts. And so it's a lot of fun, but it's not what you would expect on a conventional broadcaster, so it really resonated with us. We're like, there's something different here. We want to do this. And so sketch comedy, that's what we were doing. And in terms of what we're looking for and what we're missing, I think, last year we had a bit of a hit with Scorpion, and it had this lighter tone. It had more of a multi-generational ensemble cast, and there's all this like action, adventure, adrenaline pumping type of scenes that you'd expect from a movie. And so I feel like drama's been really either very serious and procedural, and at least on conventional channels, but even on, I guess, cable, just very heavy. And we're looking for a little bit of light in the depth, like something deep that, characters that we believe in and that we want to, know more about, but that there's something lighter and hopeful to the drama. And it's, so we find the space where you're dealing with moral conundrums is a really interesting place for us to be in, and that's what we're looking for.
For us, I think, obviously ensemble dramas are wonderful because you don't have to put so much emphasis for the audience to invest in their lead, like the one lead, because sometimes you're just not going to love that lead. And so we look for many people that you can invest in the journey and go enter the world through. But I would definitely say new settings, trying to figure out a new world, like not space per se. I mean, we've been working on a project that is set in space, but really it could be Broadchurch in space, because it's just like, that's the worst pitch ever.
No,
I'm gonna work
totally
on that.
That's so amazing.
Didn't work. Okay, see, it's a trial and error. But in just that, it's a microcosm in which to explore some relationships and trust issues and who we pretend to be versus who we really are. But it's just that it happens to be set on a space station. What I was blown away by this year was Unreal. because it broke all the rules. Like, you're not supposed to set something against the industry, because apparently nobody's interested in the industry. I would argue that. I think people are really fascinated by this world. It's not really about The Bachelor, because I, for one, am not one of those people who cares about that. I thought those relationships and those women were characters I've never seen before. And it's so complicated, and I don't trust them, and I don't understand what they're doing most of the time, and they're flipping between moments with us, with themselves, with other characters. So, like, another way to explore female dynamics and relationships was how I looked at that show, and women, professional women, and what that means, and who do you end up being at the end of the day. So I just think unconventional settings, if you can find a new way in, I think the small town murder story sort of been done to death, so put it on a space station.
Or make it supernatural.
Or you get super, there's a lot of that. Yeah, it's just like, it's using the same trope, so how do you take something, I mean, it is formula for the most part, it's great storytelling, it's always followed the same rules, but how do you find a new way into that world? How do you find a new setting? Something that's going to make noise, I mean, and female characters who don't just drink wine and are anti-heroes for the sake of being anti-heroes, like, that's not enough. You need somebody who you, like, really understand and are conflicted about, because they sort of get you, but they also do things you only wish you could do.
That's great. I'd take it back. Broadchurch in space is the worst idea I've ever heard. But yeah.
Broadchurch in space.
Broadchurch in space, yeah. And that's tremendous. But go ahead, Bill, you got something?
No.
Well, is there, I am kind of curious about, because it does play on that, does anybody have sort of like a pet genre or something, and you can genre bend on sci-fi as well, that could come back? Because I bring it up because, for a long time, there hasn't been, like, Westworld's coming back on HBO, and people are like, oh yeah, you're remaking or reimagining a franchise or a movie into a franchise, but also it's the West, and it's all sci-fi and tech, and it's all a mashup of all that stuff. Is there anything like that maybe hasn't been done in a while that either one of you would say, I wish somebody would bring me that?
Well, I mean, hopefully we're doing a show called The Expanse right now, which is a little bit throwback to Blade Runner. I think for a lot of our reference points tend to be features for whatever reason, as opposed to because let's face it, I mean, a lot of the sci-fi in the 80s was bad on purpose, and Battlestar Galactica was a reinvention of a pretty bad show. So I don't look back at it the same way I used to at USA, where it's like Magnum or something like that that fit that brand, or Columbo to Monk or whatever. I don't yearn for a lot of those, except Greatest American Hero was probably my favorite growing up. And we have looked a little bit, is there a comedic way, in space, is there a comedic way in? Is there a way to get comedy on our network through a backdoor somehow? That would be fun. Killjoys does a little bit of that for us right now. But other than that, no, nothing specific.
Oh, I can't really pinpoint exactly, because I think we're just constantly going that way. I mean, I think just coming to the female thing about what female characters have worked, we reference, I mean, especially in the comedy side of trying to find those female characters for our network too, going back to I Love Lucy and Mary Tyler Moore and even Roseanne, right, about what kind of women, what kind of settings, and what kind of comedy kind of cut through. We reference a lot of, for our comedy brand especially, like if you ask us what we're it's comedy from the 70s, it's comedy from Norman Lear, which I don't even think would be done these days.
Right, which is kind of strange that it wouldn't be. But maybe we can put that on its head a little bit and say that, are there concepts that you see and think, oh, I mean, because they've been done before, but and when they're done well, you think, oh, why didn't we think of that? Like, I mean, Empire broke out, and again, in some ways, we could segue into how, having like multi-ethnic casts or ethnic-specific shows that are finally given a chance. I mean, Empire is now one of the most popular shows on television. Or you take something like Orange is the New Black, where you're like, women in prison, and it brought up all these other things, and it's not that show at all. So is other
I think it's just great characters. I mean, when Empire broke through, I mean, we are currently shooting a show with John Singleton that we'd greenlit before, and we just have been working on one with Donald Glover as well. Like, just because, again, if you're a network that's looking for voices to fill out your brand, of course you're looking for what are other voices that give other perspectives. on culture and humanity. And I think when Empire broke out, though, I think the one thing that we were noticing, or we took away from that, was really just that there hadn't been a contemporary soap that had worked in a while. Desperate Housewives is off the air, right? Dallas, Dynasty, like what were those giant soaps that really, outside of Shonda, you know, like, and that's what it was. It's just fun characters in a giant soapy world and a setting that people were like, oh, that's interesting. Even if I don't specifically relate, I want to go and hang out there. So I think we took that away from it of being like, what is and there's a lot of period television on, at least in the States, of just, you know, everything from 1300s to, you know, on up. And we were like, what are those contemporary soaps? How can we tell elevated stories, whether it was Damages or House of Cards? Like, what are those contemporary soaps that you can kind of, I think that was a direct takeaway from Empire, actually. So.
I mean, in the multi-ethnic world, we talk a lot about a movie called Attack the Block. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I would love to figure out a way, because that was an alien invasion show. It's just the aliens invaded an area that they don't normally invade in movies, you know. But it felt so different because it was coming at it through a different lens. And I would love to sort of figure that out, taking maybe more conventional sci-fi genres, or subgenres, and running it through a different prism, a different point of view. But they're hard to find. It's hard to find the people that could pull that off.
I think that's why genre is working. That's why everyone's doing it, from Walking Dead to Game of Thrones, because you can hide a lot of themes and subtext and you know, stuff that people maybe wouldn't want to watch. Literally, the show about that, but you can, you know what? You can watch a political Machiavellian backstabbing saga if it's also set in fantasy and it relates to a broader level, right? You can tell themes of grand ambition through Battlestar Galactica that maybe if you just did a show about, you know, a war, it would not be as
building on that. We did a meeting where all the networks under our umbrella got together and talked about what they were looking for to each other. It was a bit of a waste of time corporate thing, but it was fun. It was fun in that, you know, one network put up all the things they wouldn't do, and it was religion and it was sex and all that stuff. And I was just, because I didn't prepare, I was just able to grab that and be like, those are all the things we want to do because we can, because we're sci-fi. You can do religion, you can do, you know. All sorts of things that you wouldn't dare touch because they're sort of third rail issues in conventional network television.
I would say I would agree to that, and I think Empire and even like Jane the Virgin, that are bringing out things that we don't normally want to discuss on television. People are now consuming so much content that they are ready. They're primed. The pump is primed for all this content that normally wouldn't, you know, you would be afraid to even put on the air. Empire being one of those shows that just goes there and is so over the top. But I think between watching all of the reality television characters that we see and then all of the dramas that we see, people just want something different and distinctive and that stands out. Empire does that. And even before Empire, we were looking at, you know, can we have soapier, sudzier characters in, you know, and relationship dynamics. We had Scandal and Revenge on our channel, and so we felt that we could go there in terms of more of over-the-top situations and be playful with them, because even Empire, you have to enjoy, you know, like the wink to the audience that it's like some of this is just so over the top, but you love it. You go, oh my God, did they just do that? It was so cheesy, and you love it. And so I think audiences are ready for that, and so like, creators that are willing to go there and just surprise you, you know, is exciting. It's an exciting time.
And at the same time, like, I love shows like Empire where, you know, the person's diversity is actually a major driver in the story, and it is impacting story and character and relationship. But at the same time, I also just find it refreshing that we're in a time where Kerry Washington just happens to be our lead, and it's not really discussed that she's black really until last season when they sort of did more of a Ferguson-inspired episode. I guess it's always there, but it's not the thing, and it allows you just to sort of watch the show. And for maybe audiences who might be adverse to the idea of having a diverse lead, it's like, they're just like us. And I hate to say it, but people learn from television, and the more we have Kerry Washington or, you know, Viola Davis's, and, you know, it just becomes the norm. And then we start to realize that everyone is just the same and as screwed up and as great and as perfect and as flawed. And so we certainly, like, I have a project that I'm very passionate about that the person's ethnicity is a real driver because the relationship and the familial dynamics are so embedded in that Asian culture, and it impacts the story and the relationships, and so I love that. But at the same time, I also just want to make shows where, and then our female lead just happens to be Black or Asian, or like, it's both got to be there and be evident and driving it like Empire, or it just has to be there and we don't have to comment on it anymore. Like it's there.
I think part of getting that though on the screen is making sure that the writing room and the people behind the scenes are diverse, and that we're seeking out those voices, and that, you know, when somebody comes to me and they're trying to tell a story from a certain perspective, it's like, well, where is the woman in your writing room? And where is the Asian person in your writing room? So I think that's so important when you come to a pitch, bring that authenticity of voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I wonder, you know, it's because spinning off that, we talk about as far as like, you know, representation, and transparent is also something that came out, and it was so fresh and new. It's almost one of those things where you sort of slap your forehead and think, well, why didn't I think of that? It was just sitting there for ages. Is there those moments that you, like you're on a plane or in the shower and you have that moment, or tell me a little bit more about maybe origin material, or have you found it are you reading a book or see a magazine story or something in real life where you think, you know what, we can turn that into a show? Do you have those moments?
All of the above, but I think really, I mean, your job as development exec is to be out there looking at the world, right? Is to be consuming, reading, looking, you know, seeing what trends are going on, in the sense of just like, oh, okay, people seem to be interested in this, you know. I can't think of an exact example for me anyway.
We noticed that our audience was skewing younger, bizarrely, because we're a conventional television channel, and yet, you know, we're hearing millennials are not cord cutters or cord nevers, and they're not really consuming, but it was skewing younger. And so there's a lot of, you know, Hunger Games, Maze Runner, all these dystopian type novels and features that were coming out, and we got a pitch from a feature filmmaker with a very specific auteur voice, and he came in with, I want to tell a story about what happens when all the adults are dead. And we were like, wow, like, millennial audience, let's see if we can grab them here. And so we did Between, which was, it was a departure, and we're like, should we be doing this? Absolutely. We want to tune in to an event television, to a show, so let's create an event television show where that it's self-contained, there's 6, doesn't require huge commitment from the audience, and bring them back to this one show with a serialized, you know, arc. And the key thing is we want to speak to the millennial audience, but we want there to be enough resonance with, you know, universals that will reach out to everyone. And we did stuff like all the adults died. We, you know, burned bodies and killed children and did all these kinds of crazy things in this conventional drama. And it was like, yeah, we're going to try this. And we did tap into that audience, and we had a very strong female lead who had a huge, and this was part of it too, had a huge social media presence, like millions of fans all over the world. And she's our main lead, and she brought in the audience, and we were like, this is great, let's do more of this. And so I think that's a space that we learned, okay, there's all this stuff happening, let's tap into that. Sometimes it doesn't work, and it just becomes derivative. It worked for us, and we partnered. Again, partners, I think, are important in all of this. Feature filmmaker who had never done television before, and, you know, came to the table with, I want to do this like a feature film, and a lot of learning and a lot of, you know, supporting the creator with the right people. And we also, in terms of financing, looked at, you know, we need those international partnerships to make these things work and attract talent. And so that was a Netflix original as well. So it was, we developed it, Netflix wanted it, and so they released it internationally, and we're the exclusive original in Canada.
Well, we got about 10 minutes, so I thought maybe throw it out to the audience to have questions. You have some gatekeepers here, so if you have questions, go ahead and... Isn't it great to be called a gatekeeper? That's awesome, right? It's off-putting, yeah. So we have some mics coming down here on both sides, so put your hands up if you want to ask a question.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting to hear how passionate you guys are about story. I think sometimes people have this idea that they're pitching to people who are just, making decisions and not as excited as you are. I'd love to hear about something that didn't work but you wished could have. Like either some pitch that came to you that you were like, that's such a great idea and we can't do it. Or there's something that made you really, really excited and for some reason you couldn't do or didn't work.
I had one of those.
Only one?
Yeah. Well, we don't develop as much as in the U.S. and we're very limited in what we develop. But just quickly, it was everyone's inspired by Fargo and what's happening out there, and we got this great pitch for this story that took place in a small town and where a child disappeared, and then 15 years later, there's a copycat kidnapping, and it was this very fascinating, well-written, character-driven drama with a really great narrative structure and amazing characters. Like, we loved it. And then when we went to our stakeholders and looked at, how do we market this and how do we promote it and how do we schedule it, and we're not doing anything with kids. And so it was like, oh, well, we just took a whole year of like passionately working on this and supporting these writers and loved the scripts, and they were just amazing. And it does come down to execution. Like a lot of shows, it's like, how do you deal with the death or the, kids that are being kidnapped and harmed, and just they didn't want to touch it. So there, as much as we're doing all these brave things, there's still some limits, and that was hard.
I think we all have those stories, yeah. I was going to say, I think you walk into every development script experience hoping that it'll work. You don't buy anything you're not hoping will work and succeed somehow.
Yeah, I was just going to say, never walk into a pitch thinking these people are against me. There's nothing we'd rather do than say yes, because otherwise it's time not well spent. So please think that's our state of mind, or at least I hope most people's state of mind. For me, and this dates back a few years, and it's more of a case that I miss the programming I grew up on, where it was it was adult humor, but it was also something I could watch as a kid and my whole family enjoyed together. And I don't feel there's a home anymore for the Gilmore Girls or just those really funny, odd, quirky family dramas. And I worked on something for 4 years that we shot a pilot for a network in Canada, and then we developed 4 more scripts, so you're really pregnant with that baby now. And then they just said, we're not ordering anything, actually. They just didn't order anything. But I really miss, I know it's not going to it's not Empire. I miss programming that the whole family used to sit down and watch. I just took up Jane the Virgin and devoured it in 2 weeks. I don't get out a lot, but it was just that's a show everybody can watch together. And why is it a bad thing to have a show that, it's not going to scare you? It's not Walter White. It's not doing that. Why isn't it great to find a way for everybody to sit around the TV and enjoy something together? And that's what I kind of miss, that there's no venue anymore for that. There's no home for that kind of programming. I also love Walter White. But I also wish there was something, and it broke my heart that we had spent so much time and we went so far down a path, and I knew where these characters were going, and then pulled the plug. R.I.P.
Should have burned the bodies, and then that would have sold.
Natalie may have burnt them.
There's somebody back in the front there. Did I say back in the front? That was good, huh? Right back in the middle. And there's someone in the front too.
Sorry, just to follow up on that, what you just stated there, nothing ever goes away as well. So some of these projects that you're talking about, are they something that could come back? Is it a timing issue in that sense too? As far as I think that does happen a lot. I think you can kind of play possum on some project that you really love, and just sort of as a development exec at any level, kind of bide your time and see if either the trends of the industry catch up to what you wanted to do with that idea, or vice versa.
Thank you so much for sharing today. It's been great to listen to all of you. Just to take a cue from the venue for just a moment, there's been some interesting developments with shows that have been either developed or co-developed between Canadian entities and U.S. entities. Certainly on Sci-Fi, you've got Haven, and it seems like there's some different ways it gets sliced sometimes. There's Rookie Blue, there are shows like Haven. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about, do you guys see potential sweet spots for, development with partners? Obviously, it's always going to be story first, but certainly there's been some interesting co-productions and things like that. And I just want to, as an Angelino now starting to work in Canada, I'm just curious if you guys have some insight into that or some thoughts about it.
Take it first.
It's always so different for each project. So I'd love to, if there was this magic sweet spot that we could all aim for, but it's always changing. Something that I may be looking for today, maybe somebody in the U.S. isn't looking for, and so I think it has to be the story first, and starting one place where someone is passionate and is supporting it. I think we get a lot of stuff that comes to us that it's like, it's so ready to go. All it needs is that Canadian broadcaster and to trigger tax credits, and it's all fully formed and ready to go. And sometimes those projects, it's great, and it would be great to find something that was perfect and all ready to go, and with a U.S. partner and everything. For us, and it's not for all Canadian broadcasters, we're not interested in simulcast situations with the U.S. We are more interested in partners like FX and Sci-Fi and other partners where we're not beholden to their schedule, and we don't have to run it when they have to. And so for a network simulcast, we already have so many U.S. deals and partnerships for our U.S. content that we're not looking for that for our original content. We want to be able to showcase our original content and exploit it when we want. So those are the partnerships we look for. But otherwise, it's case by case.
Yeah, and that's certainly the case for us. We do quite a bit of this, and no one is like the other. I'm again almost 2 years into this gig, and this was a learning curve for me because we didn't do a lot of this in my previous jobs at USA or Spike or anywhere else I was. But I do think they're going to become more and more important for everyone. I mean, I think you look at the success AMC had with Humans, for example, which is a show we were looking at. It is a great model, and I think in a world maybe there is too much TV, but there certainly probably is too much expensive TV, for some networks. So if we can figure out a way to do things at a lower cost and sort of share the risk with Canadian partners or foreign partners anywhere, really, I expect that trend to continue because we all want original programming. That's the thing our sales guys and everybody gets all excited about, and this is a way to do more. So I agree. I wish there was a silver bullet and say, this is exactly what you have to do. Really, it requires even more perseverance than just the regular old pitch and finding partners that match.
The only thing I'd say to add to that is that, a couple years ago, it was like, don't mention it's in Canada. Like, don't say it's in Northern Ontario. Don't say it's in Newfoundland. And now, I mean, look, we all watch dramas from, Danish dramas and Belgian and like all these crazy locations because that's why we do want to watch them. You get to go visit somewhere you don't live. But what's universal about it are the people's experiences and the whatever conundrum they're dealing with. So now I think it's like embrace that Canadian location. If it's remote, go with it. As long as that story has something to say that echoes throughout the whole world. I mean, I think with every show, no matter what the genre, it has to be talking about a new experience or something that's happening in society. If it's not addressing, like Battlestar Galactica did that so perfectly. Like, if you don't have something to say about the way we're living now, then I don't know what you're adding to the conversation. And so embrace the location, be specific, but also have something to say that, will, reverberate no matter which continent it's on. And that makes our jobs easier as people who are able to find those strategic partners around the world, because that's what they love, whether it's Book of Negroes or it's just like a million different projects. It's because there was a specificity of experience and place, and that also had something to say about the way we're living now.
I would totally watch Northern Exposure in Banff.
Tote.
Let's make that. Let's do that. All right. Well, thanks for everybody for coming out. And how about we give this panel a warm welcome? Thanks, everybody.
Big thanks to our panel as well to IATSE 891. Just a little bit of housekeeping for the day. Each of these sessions, some of you might have a pass for the day, some of you just have tickets for individual sessions, which means we have to clear the house in between each one. If you are staying here for the rest of the day and you love your seat and you want to own that seat for the rest of the day, feel free to leave your coat there. That's okay. But enjoy the free coffee. If you have questions for our guests, do it over coffee in the hallway. Thank you kindly.